Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Occam's razor, which is a principle that was first introduced by William of Occam, a English philosopher back in the 1300s. We know this phrase today. We paraphrase what he states as the simplest explanation is usually the best one. This applies to this UFO phenomenon, to the alien presence phenomenon. Largely, I would have to say. In some cases, you could say, well, it could be this, it could be that. But in a lot of other cases, a lot of the more popular cases, a lot of the more controversial cases, I would have to say that Occam's razor favors the extraterrestrial / non-human intelligence explanation. And there's just no doubt about this, actually, as far as I'm concerned. Because let's just any of the more controversial cases you think of, like, for instance, the Phoenix Lights of 1997. That case involved at least 1,000 witnesses, let's say, in Arizona and in parts of Nevada, seen a gigantic spacecraft, or what they described as gigantic, just hovering silently through the sky. The human race doesn't have anything like this, right? And when you have that many witnesses who see something like that, obviously the easiest explanation is that it's from out of this world, or it's operated by some intelligence that's not human, that's beyond us, that has technology that exceeds anything that we have. I mean, Occam's razor, that's the first thing. That's the simplest explanation. And there's nothing wrong with that explanation when it comes to that, because that's what it is. That's what people saw. Even the governor there, Fife Symington, he saw it. I mean, everybody, a whole bunch of people in Arizona saw that giant craft, as well as some people in Nevada back then in 1997, and that's what it was. That's the simplest explanation, not anything that the military tried to come up with later on. It wasn't flares. It wasn't this or that. It was what people said they saw. That's the simplest explanation. It was some sort of a craft from another world hovering around for reasons unknown. Some sort of a display. Displays like Preston Dennett, the UFO researcher, likes to talk about. He says sometimes these things make a display, and apparently that's what they were doing. So that's the simple. If you're going to use the Occam's razor principle here, I think that that's the simplest explanation. They're beings from someplace else, or maybe they're beings from here. Like people like to. Some people think that they could be here, crypto-terrestrial, whatever, ready to live under the ocean. I actually think, though, that they come from another planet. But whatever the case, they're non-human intelligence. That's what it is. It's not. That's the simplest explanation for what happened there. And when you think about it, and I like bringing this up, there are 700 quintillion planets in this universe. That's at least, right? That's a crazy number, right? 700 quintillion, because 1 quintillion equals 1,000,000 trillions, right? So when you think of that, I mean, obviously we can't be alone. I mean, look at all the life. This planet Earth, is just teeming with life. Look at it. I mean, it's all. I mean, not just human race. I mean, look at all the animals, all the wildlife, all the fish in the sea. I mean, there's just so much here. The plant life. I mean, this planet is teeming with life. And when you have 700 quintillion other planets in this universe that we're in, and each quintillion equals 1,000,000 trillions, well, that means that there has to be other life just like ours, and you would have to also believe that some of that life, some of that intelligent life, there's also, I would have to imagine that there most certainly has to be intelligent life, so it had to develop elsewhere, not just here, right? And some of it, I'm sure, developed were in a different stage of evolution than we are, and some of them, for all we know, could be 1,000,000 years more evolved than we are, and that's the answer. So Occam's razor tells us, I would say, the simplest explanation is that we are definitely not alone, just based on that knowledge. I mean, if there's 700 quintillion planets out there, that means that, and you look at all the life here, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is, of course there's life out there. And of course it's coming here because we have these sightings, encounters, all of this, abductions, cattle mutilations, all of it. So obviously there's something else going on here. I mean, you think about the 1973 Pascagoula, Mississippi case. That's one of the best cases of all time, I think. I mean, in fact, I've been reading this book here, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, by Philip Mantle and Irina McCannon Scott. Great book. This is really good stuff. I mean, this is the end-all book with regard to the Pascagoula case from 1973, and it is appropriately named Beyond Reasonable Doubt. This book, I mean, of course, I complained recently about Philip Mantle's piece that he had in MUFON's journal, in the recent MUFON journal, about Roswell being solved. Now that sucked. I thought that article sucked. But this book here that he helped write, that he was co-writing, this is the antithesis of suck. This is a great book. This is great information. And when you read it, you realize that, you know, this happened. I mean, Occam's razor would tell us that the simplest explanation is the right one. You know, that's so. The simple. I mean, actually, the simplest explanation is the best one here, and there's no question that that's the explanation. Just like Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker reported that they were, you know, fishing on the Pascagoula River after work one evening. Some sort of a craft came down. These three creatures, robotic-like creatures, emerged from this craft, floated over to them. These beings had just like the two legs that were together. They didn't even have legs. They just looked like a single leg. It looked like they had arms, but they didn't have hands. They had like pincer-like hands. Their wrinkled faces, they couldn't even see eyes there. It looked like they had like carrots sticking out of where their ears are, and a carrot for a nose. And these creatures grabbed them, floated them into the ship, examined them, then set them back outside. There were actually witnesses. You read this book here. There were witnesses, other witnesses besides that were on the other side of the river. Actually, that actually came out years later. A husband and wife. I mean, and then these people. These two guys, Hickson and Parker. They went to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department to report this because at first they weren't going to do it, but then they decided, you know, we got to do it. What if there's an invasion? So they went and they do it, and they tell this story, which sounds crazy, right? Of course it does. How often do you hear stuff like this? But they tell this story. Sheriff doesn't know what to think. They leave them in a room together. They have a tape recorder running under the table, and these two guys continue their conversation about what just happened to them. And obviously they were still in shock. When you listen to that tape recording, they obviously were terrified and in shock about what just happened to them. It affected the rest of their lives. I mean, this. Calvin Parker just recently died. Charles Hickson died probably about, I think, 20 years ago or something like that now. But Calvin Parker just recently died. This affected him for the rest of his life. This was a traumatic experience, right? So Occam's razor tells me that the simplest explanation is the best one. And the simplest explanation here is that what they said happened is exactly what happened. That's what it is. That's what happened. Occam's razor tells us that. I mean, that's the simplest explanation. It wasn't some dual hallucination like these crazy explanations you'll hear from the debunker cult, right? It's nothing like that. What they said happened is what happened. You know, it's like in 1994 when I was fishing with my friend Scott. This was an incident involving a UFO, not nearly as dramatic as this, thank God, right? I was fishing with my good friend Scott. We were on this. It was a private. It was a pond off a lake. It was a private community. It was a gated community. He got permission to go fishing at that place. We're fishing all evening on this pond, and this. At some point, some kind of soundless craft just came up to us. Basically, I turned around to get something out of a tackle box. I see these three giant headlights, right, lined up horizontally, hovering behind trees. Behind us where we were fishing, there was an open field with tall grass, and then on the perimeter was a forest. And hovering behind some trees, you could see these three giant lights, and I saw it come into an opening, and it started moving toward us. I said to my friend Scott, Scott, what the hell is that? And he says, I don't know. And then the thing just moves silently, no sound whatsoever, as big as a house, only 2.5 stories off the ground, comes right up in front of us. He shines a flashlight on the bottom of it. I say, Scott, let's get the hell out of here. We start throwing the stuff in the truck, and then the thing starts moving back in a different direction, backward. And with the light still facing toward us, very close to the tops of trees. And then we get out of there. We're driving down this dirt road. We're both in shock. And we have to wait while all these deer, at least 20 deer, come running across this dirt road in front of us, running away from the direction that thing just flew. And we were both in shock. And, we go to a donut shop, and he says, the first thing I said to him, I said, that was a UFO. And the first thing he says, I'm not saying anything. I'm not telling anybody. But looking back at it, right, there's no question that thing wasn't man-made. There's no way it could have been. We don't have that. That's a non-human intelligence contraption that we encountered that night. That was Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is the best one. That's what it was. There is no other explanation for it. So, and I think, Occam's razor favors the hypothesis that we are not alone. It really does. When you look at a lot of the cases, in small cases, big cases, for the most part, Occam's razor always favors the hypothesis that there's an alien / non-human intelligent presence on this planet. There's just no doubt about this in my mind as far as anybody should be concerned. You look at the Stephenville, Texas sighting, similar to the Phoenix Lights, which happened in late 2007, early 2008, where a lot of people in the Stephenville, Texas area and some other surrounding communities were seeing giant craft, right? In fact, in late 2007, Ricky Sorrells goes out hunting in one morning, and he's out hunting in the woods near his house, and he looks up, and there's this giant craft hovering right above him. He can't believe what he's seen. He actually looked at it through his scope, and then eventually the thing takes off on a 45-degree angle silently, no sound whatsoever. Right, he said it's so big you could have landed jet fighters on there, or you could have put a ship on top of it. It's so big, right? And so what happens? He talks about this, and next thing you know, there's Pentagon officials come to his house, right, and they say, "Hey, you better keep quiet about this. We don't want you talking about this." Basically, it's to me that sounds like a form of harassment. It's intimidation. They intimidated him, and eventually he did shut up. He doesn't talk about it anymore because he was intimidated by it. So what does that tell you, though? All of this. And then there was all the other people that saw this giant craft out there in Stephenville, Texas area back in 2008. Well, what's the explanation? What were they seeing? The easiest explanation. What's the easiest explanation? That it was something not of this earth. That it was something that was created and operated by a non-human intelligent civilization. That's what it is. That's the explanation. That's the best explanation. The simplest explanation is the best one. So that's Occam's razor favors the extraterrestrial / non-human intelligence explanation in a lot of cases, especially these bigger ones. I mean, Travis Walton, what else could it have been? Right? Was he lying? How could they have been lying? Six other witnesses saw him getting zapped by some kind of a light from a flying saucer. Right? Then he disappears for 5 days, and it shows up. Eventually, all of these people, the 6 people that saw this, that were there, his 6 co-workers, and Travis Walton himself, 7 people altogether, they all end up eventually passing lie detector tests. Right? He's never deviated from the story all these years, although him and Mike Rogers had a little issue in recent years where Mike Rogers was going to pretend that it wasn't real. But for the most part, these guys. Mike Rogers was his boss at the time. Mike Rogers was upset because Travis wasn't communicating with him enough. So he, I guess that's what happens sometimes in life. So he was going to pretend that okay, if Travis is going to be like that, it was fake. But then they made up, and okay, it was real. But the fact of the matter is, they already passed the lie detector tests. Travis had disappeared for 5 days, shows up mysteriously, had this encountered alien creatures. The simplest explanation is that that's what happened. Exactly what he said. So it applies to all of these things, and it's even deeper than that now. It's much deeper than that now, as far as I'm concerned. I talk about this one analysis, the analysis of the Turkey. I talked about that in a recent show. The analysis of the Convergus Turkey UFO videos that was put together by Mario Valdez of Santiago, Chile, back in 2012. And I have a link. I'll leave a link in the description. If you have not seen this, like I always leave this link when I talk about the Turkey videos, I always leave this link to this analysis so people could check it out for themselves. There's a lot of information on this page. I'm going to pull it up here so you can see. Look at this. I mean, this guy did an analysis. You have to remember there were 4 different countries that looked into this. Experts. There was this guy, Yalchin Yalman, of course, who filmed videos over the Sea of Marmara multiple times over the course of 2007, 2008, 2009. A lot of the times he had other witnesses were there with him when this happened, including at one time The late Dr. Roger Lear was there and saw it with his own eyes. He was filming a apparent flying saucer that's hovering out over the sea, and sometimes you could see alien creatures inside. Sometimes there was like an opening on the top of this craft, or we don't know how many, if it was the same craft every time or it was different craft, but whatever. There was an opening on this craft where you could see alien beings in there, and these people, there were experts from 4 different countries including Chile that studied this, and they all determined that it was not hoaxed, it wasn't faked, and you could see alien creatures on there. Like, and I talked about it in that recent show where the Turkey UFO aliens, they're real. It's real. They're real aliens. You see the images of them. You know, this analysis does a great job illustrating, you know, these creatures and talks about them. I mean, you can see when you scroll through this. I mean, look at these. These are alien beings I'm looking at here. You're looking at alien beings in some sort of a craft that was just hovering there over the Sea of Marmara on numerous occasions. And here you can see them actually moving around in there. You're actually seeing real alien creatures. And so now there's all these other explanations that come out. Oh, it's a cruise ship or something like that. It's an illusion, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. To me, the simplest explanation is the best one. I'm seeing alien creatures here. These things aren't human. Look at this. These aren't human. They're not human beings. That's not a ship's captain or somebody working on a cruise ship or a tourist on a cruise ship. That doesn't look anything like a person. It looks like just like the aliens that people describe over the years. That's what it looks like. I mean, look at this. Look at this thing. Look at a big head on it. Look at big eyes right there. Look at them. You can even see a mouth on this one. There's a close-up of it down here. I mean, look at that's a real alien, you know? So Occam's razor tells me, right? I mean, they were filming this over the course of 3 years, multiple different videos of it, and you have experts from 4 different countries saying it's not a hoax, and there's something, it's definitely anomalous, and they have no explanation for it. The simplest explanation is the best one. Simplest explanation is it's aliens, it's extraterrestrials, it's non-human intelligence, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say, however you want to put it. But that's the easiest explanation. Yeah, we could argue about where they come from, right? We could argue about all of that, but I mean, in the end, it's still non-human intelligence, right? That's what it is. I mean, look at these images here. You can see, you know, looks like it could be a human being laying down. Here's a praying mantis type alien, and behind him, two big-headed gray aliens with big black eyes. You know, you see it? Yeah. That's the simplest explanation. Occam's razor tells me the simplest explanation is the best one. That's the simplest explanation. What's more simple than that? You're seeing what the explanation is you see creatures that don't look like they're human, and they're in some sort of a craft that we don't have. We don't have craft like that. So the explanation is they're aliens. You know, another interesting thing about this, somebody brought this up to me recently about how these creatures move very fast. You know, we talk about that in the Vegas aliens, like, they seem like they could be moving, very fast. But in this video, in the Turkey UFO videos, this guy Mario Valdes, he came to that conclusion that these things in that craft are moving extremely fast, faster than human beings move around. He says here, I was going to read a little bit here. He says, already I mentioned that while analyzing the movement of the figures, I repaired in a singular detail. The figures moved in an extremely fast way, as if the video was being reproduced to the highest speed. Only on lowering the speed of reproduction, it is possible to begin to identify the figures and his movements. In fact, the sequence in which the essential figure raises his head and turns it going down happens in only an eighth part of a second. That's it, an eighth part of a second. It turns out difficult to determine to what speed of reproduction the movements approach a level of normality, but it is clear that to come more or less to this point, it is necessary to reproduce the videos to a speed of extremely slow motion. I leave this precedent in the table for consideration, since I imagine that the theories and a hypothesis on this point are not going to be absent. Now, I don't think Mario's first language was English, so that's why this report, it seems like it's disjointed in some parts, but he does a really good job, I thought, otherwise. But, there's alien creatures here, and they're moving at an extremely fast rate of speed. The explanation here is that they're not human. I mean, that's another reason why these things couldn't have been human beings, because of the way they were moving. They're moving uh, way faster than a human being moves around. Whatever they're doing, it's unclear. Is this are we in some of these images? Did we actually, are we seeing here an abduction take place? Is that what this is? Could be. If this is a person laying there and these are two gray aliens hovering over him, could be. Yeah. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, there's all these stuff. That's the thing, you think about alien abduction, right? You have all these different people who don't know what's happening to them. And this is before a lot of the literature was out, like say back in the 70s and 80s, right? When not a lot of people knew about this, right? That aliens were abducting people. They didn't hear about this before, and they go to their psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist finds that they're completely normal people, but they're having they're talking about these weird experiences. They don't know if they're dreams or what's going on. They don't know if they're going crazy. They get hypnotized. They find out that it is real, that it is really happening, and they all telling a similar story. So, according to Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is the best one. That's really happening. They're really getting abducted. They're really having the semen taken out of them, out of the males. There's really having eggs extracted from females. There's really happening. That's the easiest explanation. Yeah, look at that. I mean, here's an image in that from that Turkey UFO video where you can see movement. Went back too far there. Yep, there's movement there. You can see these alien creatures moving. Yeah, and this was, yeah. So that's the explanation for this. Yeah, that's the easiest explanation. The Roswell UFO crash, that's another case where the simplest explanation is the best one. And that Occam's razor favors the reality that something actually crashed there. Because let's look at it. I mean, there was hundreds of witnesses on one side, and the Air Force, the Army Air Force, and the Air Force, they don't have any witnesses. The Air Force has no witnesses really to back up what they're saying. Basically, the one guy, Charles B. Moore, who was in charge of the mogul balloon stuff, right? He really wasn't a witness. All he did was verify that he launched the balloons, right? That's about all he did, right? And then there was another guy named Sheridan Cavett. He told the Air Force line when they called upon him back in the 90s, right? When they were doing their reports. But before that, he never would talk to anybody about it, and even his own family members thought he wasn't telling the truth about it. And then on the other side, you have hundreds of people, starting with that happened in the July of 1947, the crash, and then over 30 years later, in the late 1970s, in 1978, Jesse Marcel Sr., who was a top intelligence official there, he comes out and he says, "Wow, there was no way that this could have been from Earth. There's no way it could not have been." He was familiar with all kinds of stuff, weather balloons, all that stuff. He knew all about that stuff. Right? He knew about radar reflectors and all that kind of thing. This was not a weather balloon. It was a cover-up. He was told to shut up about it. And then after he came out, it was like a snowball effect over the years. More witnesses came out, more military witnesses that the Air Force doesn't want to talk about. But that researchers like Kevin Randall, Donald Schmitt, Thomas Carey, Stan Freeman, those people, they dug these witnesses out. Well over hundreds, in the hundreds. In fact, I heard Donald Schmitt recently talking on a different podcast, talking about the fact that there's more witnesses, more deathbed confessions he's learning about through family members of people who were there. So if Roswell went to court, right, the Air Force would have no witnesses to their balloons dummy story, right? That would have nothing. They would all that is nonsense. On the other side, you would have affidavits, and unfortunately, all the witnesses are dead now. Most of them, I would have to imagine, if not all of them. Even Jesse Marcel Jr., who handled some of the material. But regardless, the fact of the matter is they have no witnesses on the Air Force to, really. But on the other side, you have all these people, at least 100 people, who all hold a little piece to the puzzle. And when you put it all together, it tells you that something crashed, that there were alien beings. Apparently, one was still alive and apparently died at some point later, right? And that was a cover-up, that they recovered wreckage. They took the flying saucer away, and that people there were told to shut up about it. So as far as I'm concerned, the simplest explanation is the best one. Obviously, those people were telling the truth. Jesse Marcel Sr. and all the other ones who came after him were telling the truth, right? So again, Occam's razor favors the explanation that we're not alone and that there's also a cover-up. There's no question. And when you look at the other evidence that I've been talking about here all the time on my channel anymore, because I think I need to, the Vegas stuff, what's the best explanation? You have You have a family member. You have a family in Las Vegas, the Kenmore family. That's a pseudonym. They contact police on May 1st, the early morning hours of May 1st, 2023. Something came down in their yard, and now there's alien beings in their backyard, and they're looking at them right now, and they were terrified. Their family members, they were terrified, right? And they saw creatures running around their backyard, 8 to 10 foot tall beings they saw. That was what they witnessed. And now, luckily for us, they filmed the backyard before the police arrived. Before the police arrived, they filmed that backyard, and we see that there's creatures there in that video. There's a lot of weird, anomalous activity occurring in there, and in some instances, we could actually see beings. And one of them in particular I've been talking about recently looks like your classic gray alien. Now, to me, the simplest explanation is the best one. So Occam's razor obviously favors the explanation that this involved actual alien creatures, just as described by the family members. That's what it involved. I mean, you look at the video and you see it. You see the beings, right? You listen to the story, the testimony from the family, right? Last September, when they were on that Inside Edition segment where they talked about their experiences. Right, it wasn't just the two kids, the two teenage sons, Angel and Joshua. It was also the father, Bobby. The mother, Contra, was the one who filmed it. But they all described seeing alien creatures, and they weren't lying, and they actually have the proof to back it up. So we're there. We've made it, and Occam's razor is on our side, even when you really think about it. And actually, when you look at the Vegas stuff, that actually even reinforces everything else I just talked about. All of those other cases, right? Phoenix Lights, Roswell, right? Pascagoula, all those cases now have received some reinforcement because of the Vegas stuff, right? They received reinforcement, right? The Turkey UFOs, obviously, that, as far as I was concerned, that should have proved it, right? But now we actually, in this Vegas one, we have people who were up close and personal with these creatures, right? And the story, the Turkey UFO was far away, and you have all these crazy explanations coming from the debunkers. But you know what? They can't do it with this one. They can't do it with the Vegas one. They could try to pretend that it's a cruise ship and stuff with the Turkey one, but they're not going to be able to pretend anything with the Vegas one. They can't do it, because if they try, people are going to think they're just liars, right? That's the problem. That's why Mick West is clammed up, right? He can't talk about it because people are going to know he's just a big time liar. Like, for instance, you look at the gimbal UFO. The Vegas case reinforces the gimbal case. Let's watch the gimbal video for a minute.
Dude, there's a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing! It's rotating.
Now, the simplest explanation to that, now obviously the pilots that were talking with each other, they not only did we see the one that we're seeing there was a fleet of them, right? Now, Sean Kirkpatrick recently tried to tell Marek von Rennenkamp that was a balloon. But then Rennenkamp had to point out to Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, that couldn't have been a balloon because it was flying against the wind. That would mean it was flying against the wind. That's impossible, right? So that's another thing. This Occam's razor tells me the government's lying to us. They're lying to us. They've been lying to us, right? And so you have that, and then you look at the craft itself. Now, Mick West tries to make a big deal about the way the thing tilts and all that kind of stuff. What does it matter? We're looking at a frickin' flying saucer. That's what it is. The simplest explanation is the best one. Occam's razor tells me that. Obviously, it's a flying saucer, and we know that it's real because look at the Vegas stuff. So, right? The Vegas stuff reinforces the gimbal evidence. It reinforces everything. All these other cases from the past are all reinforced now. Whitley Strieber, his experiences, it's reinforced. Occam's razor says the simplest explanation because that's right. It is the simplest. It is the explanation. So I just thought I would point that out today. I think it's very important that people understand that the simplest explanation to this phenomenon is that we've been engaged by some intelligence that's not human and that has technology that exceeds anything that we've got. That's the simplest. That's the best explanation. It's the best It's the simplest one. And it fills in all the blanks, and all of these cases together when you look at them. Think about the aerial skull from 1994. Let's throw that in there too. What else? What's the simplest explanation? Alien creatures. 60 plus kids see a flying saucer. They're on break during a play break in the morning, right? On a recess. They're outside of school. All the teachers are in the school. All of a sudden, these kids see a flying saucer and alien creatures. One of the alien creatures starts communicating telepathically with about 3 or 4 kids. Puts images in their heads of destruction, right? Says that technology is no good, right? Basically. What's the simplest explanation? The simplest explanation is that it's exactly what the kid said it happened. That's the explanation. They were alien beings from who knows where, creatures, non-humans, operating craft that humans never made, and they communicated with them telepathically and showed them messages and put telepathic images in their head of destruction. That's what it was. That's the explanation. That's the simplest one. It's the best one. The simplest explanation is the best one. Any other explanation doesn't fit it anyway. I mean, that's because that's what's going on here. There's a presence here, and Occam's razor is on the side of the presence. It's the simplest explanation. It's the best explanation. That's what's going on here, folks. Anyway, I want to move on. I want to talk about some of the comments I've been receiving recently from people from the last episode, and this is from Spotify. I'm going to start with Spotify. I got a lot of comments from Spotify. He's from Chad, says great. This is regard to the episode absolute proof of ET gives some UFO disclosure advocates big swagger. Chad says great episode, Jim. Can you tell us when you'll be interviewed by Shannon Scott? I would love to hear it. Yes, Shannon Scott of Military Witnesses to UAP. He's going to have me on a show upcoming at some point soon. I will let you all know when that's going to happen. Sean Burke says, I'm not doubting what you're seeing. I just can't see it. Can you outline it in the image for dense people like me? All right, Sean, I'll provide a picture here for you. I drew what I did here for you, Sean, is I drew an outline over the creature so you could see it better. It's just a still image of the one in the back, and I hope you could see it now better. I don't know what else I could do. To me, it's pretty damn clear. But hey, this might help you. The last time when I did this with the creature by the fence, and that seemed to help a lot of people that weren't seeing that. And then I actually received some thank yous saying now I could see it. Like I said, some people were having trouble seeing it, but when you draw the outline around it, around the figure, that makes it easier. So hopefully this will help you. Nor 2023 says this video is very compelling. Keep at it, Jim. ESP says illuminating times for sure. Salty S. Quilgy says the braggarting in the intro put me off. You can do a better explain topic / evidence without that. That is all. Keep moving forward. Okay, so they didn't like the way I was braggadocious. I get it. I know sometimes it's too much. I get it. And I don't know what to say. Sometimes, I'm human too. What are you going to do? Josh says, I've shown a couple of friends, he's talking with this latest video that I've been talking about, where, we're showing that creature in the back, that little gray. And this is what he says. This is interesting. Josh says, I've shown a couple of friends. One was blown away. The other refused to look, kept saying, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. It's kind of crazy the level of brainwashing people choose for themselves. It is kind of scary, but it's also 100% real. Putting your head in the sand won't change the truth. I just want to point something out. People who are religious, I don't think you need to worry about this. Some religions are coming out in advance. The Catholic Church, for instance, has stated, hey, God could have created, you believe in God? God could have created, what makes you think he didn't create life somewhere else? It's not, you could meld your religion with this reality. I don't think that should be a problem. I know it does scare people, though. It does scare people, some people. Pohara says, only since you proved it do I know I was right. And that was a quote from Dr. Ferdinand Porsche. Max says, you're doing great work on this, Jim. Thanks. Also, think it's time to start outing some fakes in the field. Yeah, so of course we're talking about an episode, a few episodes back, where I was talking about some people who, I found out, you find out some names behind you that don't want their name connected with this and stuff like that. It's like, well, why are you staying? You're like, there are some people in the UFO field who are deliberately staying away from this. One that bothered me a lot, Ben Hansen. Now he's on that UFO program on Discovery Plus. He's on News Nation a lot. I think he seems like a nice guy to me. I like the UFO show, but when he was on News Nation talking about this Vegas case, it's like he didn't do his homework and he just dismissed it. He poo-pooed it without really, talking about shadows and nonsense. And now, as you can see, he's wrong. I mean, why would you come out and be so against something without really understanding all the evidence yet? I don't understand that. To me, that tells me that there's some people out there, maybe Ben Hansen. I mean, he's former FBI, right? Well, why was he doing that? Why is he saying these things? Why didn't he look into it a little bit more before coming to that conclusion? I mean, you have a crime scene reconstruction expert, on the show telling you that no, there's something there. It's real. It really happened. They weren't lying. There's no CGI. It's not a shadow. You can't have a shadow. A shadow needs a solid surface. There's no solid surface there, right? There's something there. All right, and now you even see more evidence. Now we've been talking about that little gray alien in the back. I mean, why would you come out so hard against it? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like almost like you're trying to put Pandora in the back into the box. Why would you do that? Why not wait? Why at the very, what you could do if you're not so sure? How could you be so sure? That's one thing, right? But if you're not sure, right, why would you say that? I mean, I don't know how he could have been sure. Right? Unless, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you say that at all? Why would you say, well, you know what? We need to look at this more. That would have been a better answer, right? That would have been a much better answer. It's like Mark D'Antonio on The Proof is Out There. When I talked about that episode where he was talking about the Turkey UFOs, and he says, oh, there's no beings there. Well, obviously, what's he talking about? You see them with your own eyes. It was analysis done over 10 years ago by people that looked at this. But Mario Valdez, he doesn't even consider none of that. Like, what are you talking about? It's like you're being gaslighted by some people in the UFO community for some reason. They seem like nice people, right? They seem like nice guys, right? They're on UFO shows on TV, but yet I feel like they're gaslighting people. That's how it looks like to me. When you see it's clear to me. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, that's what I just want to say about that. I don't want to cause any trouble. There's some other names out there too of people that are trying to stay away from this. But it seems like it's to me, right, from the way I gathered, it sounds like they actually think there is something to it, but they don't want to be connected to it. That's what it sounded like to me. So that to me is really screwed up, right? Really screwed up. Anyway, let's see. Let Free Your UAP says, I believe that people who can't see it just don't want it to be real. But it's pretty obvious to me. I think maybe getting more info on the details surrounding the incident, maybe a deep investigation into the house and area, maybe getting FOIA requests for police videos and such. Also, I heard there were some type of homeland security or defense cameras and something about things happening there before those people lived in that house. Good luck, Jim, and great work. Keep on going. Yeah, well, there was some Homeland Security cameras that were installed. Apparently, they were installed by members of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, and apparently there might have been other government officials involved too. That's what Angel had told a different podcaster earlier this year. Obviously, though, the government was interested in it. There's no doubt about it. There was Homeland Security cameras that they put in there. You don't put Homeland Security cameras in something like that, into a residential neighborhood. Homeland Security? Why would you put Homeland Security cameras? And that's because of the only reason you would put Homeland Security cameras up is because you're thinking that you're getting an invasion from outside of the United States. Andrew Goldsmith says, the more you see, the more you can see. The mind is tuned to block these sort of things out. That's a great comment, because I was thinking about this, and when I first looked at this video, I couldn't see the stuff. I couldn't really see anything. It was a slow process. It took, Scott Roeder initially last year, in June of 2023, is when he discovered that movement of that creature that scared them out of the yard. And it wasn't until earlier this year where, thanks to a tip from one of my subscribers, Julia June, where, we found that, or I finally saw the head above the fence. I just didn't see it before. I looked at that video 100 times. So did Scott Roeder. And then somebody pointed it out to us and we saw it. And then I kept on going through that video little by little, trying to find stuff. And then I saw that thing in the back, that little gray kind of creature. And there's other things back there too. One of these days, I'm going to go through all the anomalies, all the definites and all the probables, all the maybes. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go through. There's a lot of stuff back there. A lot of stuff is going on in that image, in that video. You could create probably a drinking game with that thing. How many aliens are, if you can't find one in time, you hit the timer, then you have to take a drink. You could do something like that. I mean, there's so much going on back there. And you could. There's a lot of probables, I would say. And someday I'm going to put something like that together. So yes. Brian says, Jim, maybe those great. This was interesting. Now somebody else said this too in YouTube recently. So I don't know if Brian is the same person or not. But the two people have the same mindset right now. But I thought this was an interesting idea. He says, Jim, maybe those gray aliens you identified in the video were the only ones there. Maybe they use a projection to make themselves seem huge. If they can cloak themselves from light and sound, maybe they can project images as well. That's an interesting concept. Like that, those tall ones that the people were seeing, the tall one that shows its face over the fence, the tall one that seems to chase them out of the yard that we get a really very, very brief glimpse of. Maybe what he's saying is that they were projections and it wasn't cloaking technology, and that the little ones were the only ones that were there, and they're using that projection to scare the people out of there. I mean, I don't know. Now, see, here's the thing with that. Now, in the area where that being shows up above the fence, like Scott Roeder pointed out, 66% of the pixels were deleted. And so I just don't know. I mean, I guess it's another, you could say that could be something. I don't know. I do think that there are beings that are cloaking themselves, but I would not count out that possibility either, I guess. We just don't know. The one thing we do know is that there was something definitely there. Those people weren't lying. That's the thing we do know. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to YouTube for some of the comments from there with the most recent episode. Now, I was in that beginning of that episode, I did make a mistake, and sometimes I get things reversed. So I said sometimes I said art imitates life. I actually meant to say life imitates art. I think life imitates art. I was talking about that old TV show Kolchak the Night Stalker. And I made that comparison. Actually, the original pilot movie took place in Vegas, and this reporter, Carl Kolchak, was trying to report on this vampire that was killing young women, draining their blood. But yet the authorities, law enforcement, the government, and also his own editor at the newspaper, they're all trying to prevent him from telling the story. And I thought that's interesting. It seems like doesn't that parallel in a way with what's happening here? Like there's certain people out there. There's a little small group of people trying to tell the world, hey, that Vegas alien thing settles the debate, right? And yet a lot of people are staying away from it. And I thought but I did make a comment saying, yeah, art. I said art imitates life. No, I meant to say life imitates art. So I want to make that correction. But anyway, Bugsy Boy says, the Night Stalker absolutely terrified me as a child. I recall this one episode where Kolchak had to kill a zombie while it slept at night in a junkyard by pouring salt in its mouth, then stitching it shut. Yeah, I remember that episode too. It was... he says it scared me for life. Yeah, it scarred me for life. Yeah, it's a pretty frightening episode. I saw that when I was young too. That was a scary one. MJ Beaver was happy that I shouted out because I read his comment last time, and so did Randy McKernan. They were glad I mentioned their names in the previous episode. Rusty Grunner says, what more will it take? The evidence is there for all to see. That poor family have been through hell. Hex Nottingham says, if Jim Quirk gets subpoenaed to testify to Congress about this footage, he's going to go swagging up in there wearing an Eagles green leisure suit and someone following him holding up a box playing the Bee Gees Staying Alive. I don't know about that. No, if I have to do that, I'll clean myself up and I'll throw a suit on, slick the hair back and, go in I'll change the appearance for there. But here in this venue, this is how it is. I don't care. Grim7747 says, sweet, my comment made it in the video. Thanks, Jim. And he also continued. Now, Grimm, if you remember, Grimm is the one who didn't think, he wasn't too impressed with the creature that chases him out of the yard or the being that shows its head up above the fence. He thought that was interesting, but what really convinced him was the gray alien. And he says, another thing I want to mention is how in the world those that are in charge of the cover-up have not been pressuring you to remove the videos. That's how clear I believe that thing is in the background. How are the powers that be not scrambling over this? If I were to venture a guess, it's because we truly are on our way to disclosure. Elizondo's book may clue us in a little more on if we truly are inching our way toward disclosure, but that remains to be seen. Yes. Yeah, that is a good question. Yeah, what are they going to do? I mean, they're not going to, if we figure it out on our own, they probably have contingencies for this. I mean, it's just that this didn't reach the highest levels yet, Elizondo, I can't wait to get his book. It's coming out later this month. I'll definitely be doing a review on it and talking about it on here. I can't wait to see it, and maybe that will help move the needle. I'm sure it will. A lot of people have already been talking about it. Some of it is leaked and all that, and so I'm holding out till I get the actual copy in my hand, then I'll talk about it. Anyway, he continues, he says, they need to just peel the Band-Aid off already. Are we alone or are we not? I don't understand the shock reasoning people often point to. Hundreds of millions of people all over the world believe there is an invisible boss of some sort that can read our minds, watches everything we do, and will someday judge us for it. That alone strikes major fear in people, but yet we still carry on as normal. Normal is doing some heavy lifting there. Laughing out loud. Would the revelation of a new species really be that shocking? I don't think it would be. And a guy 6641 says, your thumbnail pic shows your new workout plan is going amazing. Yeah, I mean, wasn't that ridiculous? Yeah, I didn't know how I was gonna, a lot of times I don't even create the thumb. Sometimes I create the thumbnails before the shows, and then sometimes I wait till after I make them and edit them, and that was one of the ones after. I couldn't think of what the hell am I gonna do, and I came up with that idea. Just paste my head on a bodybuilder body. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I know. I wish I had the kind of body. I used to lift weights a long time ago, but not anymore. I'm in my 50s now, an old flabby man, sitting here yelling about the government and UFOs and cover-ups. Yeah. Also, the Chosen One says that Herbalife is doing wonders for you. Bill Davis says he loved that series growing up, Kolchak. Yes, life imitates art. Well, Bill knew I made a mistake, and he got it right anyway. All right, and then StewPot6998 says, what's frustrating is that YouTube is not a good platform for sharing information. There's a video everyone needs to see, but a link can't be posted. I don't know how to get a hold of anyone to give the link out away from here. I don't know. Send it to me in an email. Let's see what I could do. So I don't know what videos they're talking about here. So I don't know. A lot of people are sending me videos. There's so much stuff I'm getting from a lot of people right now, and I'm behind a little bit. I just want to point that out to some people today, because there's some people that are that have contacted me recently who have experiences with aliens, and they want to talk about it or let me share their story, and I'll be getting back with them as this week goes on and trying to set dates and times up for that. So I'm trying to do. I'm getting a lot more people sending me emails these days, and it's hard to keep up with it. Just so people know, I will get back to you as soon as I can, though. Let's see. Darger3 says, this is the hill to die on. Isn't this what we have been waiting for? You are absolutely correct on the continued silence. Yeah. That's funny that he says that, because there was other people saying this isn't other people were sending me messages saying that this is not the hill to die on. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is it. There's nothing out there that's better than this. Nothing. So I don't know what you're talking about. Darger knows it. This is the hill to die on. It is. Fred Obermeyer says, thanks, Jim. I don't miss a show. Disclosure of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and non-human intelligence, NHI, is vital for scientific progress, transparency, and global security. The public deserves the truth about potential extraterrestrial life and its implications. Open disclosure builds trust, encourages research, and prepares humanity for the future. It's alarming that despite evidence, some remain in denial. Jeremy Corbell's claim that disclosure could be harmful is disingenuous. Now, I just want to say, he didn't say that this disclosure could be harmful. He said that stories like the Nazca mummies and that Vegas aliens could be harmful to the discussion for some reason. I don't understand that. I mean, he thinks it's too sensational. But the problem is, yeah, it's sensational. You better believe it's sensational. But you know why it's sensational? Because it's actually real. It's real. That's why it's sensational, right? It's better than anything else we have as far as proving the presence of aliens here. And it does prove it. He says here, and he goes on, he says, what's needed now is unwavering confidence combined with a bold approach that makes it clear. This is no joke and no film artifact, and no excuse can downplay the truth. Nope, it can't. And Bill Davis says, you and Scott Roeder need to write a book about the Vegas case. Yeah, there's going to be books I'm sure at some point about this, and I'm sure I will, put something together at some point when I have the time to do it. Yeah, there should be a book. Actually, there's other people out there too that have been gathering information on this, and I've been working with somebody on this, and he's going to be coming on the show at some point in the future to talk about all the evidence. He actually assembled all the evidence as a big long document, and we're going to talk about that on an upcoming show at some point, as well as provide a link to the document so everybody can see it. And we're gonna do that's going to be getting rolled out at some point here in the future. Fat888 Tony says, most of the UFO community are nerds who rather be entertained with stories than seeing the truth. Tony Barnes wrote back to him, says, cricky bloke, I stopped wearing my cap with a propeller when I tossed my pocket protector. If that's their thing, there's probably no reason for the rest of us to be concerned. I can't imagine there'd be too many people like that, and unless they morph into annoying trolls and time wasters, not much harm can arise, I think and hope. Julia June just commented, the thumbnail. Yes, the thumbnail. I know it's absurd and ridiculous, but I got to do it. It was fun for a day. Randy McKernan says, your description of your experience as a young person is terrifying. Even if the aliens had no evil intent, that sort of trauma can affect some people for the rest of their lives. I hope you have friends and family who are supportive now. I would laugh at most of my life over this. I mean, I would tell the story, and people would just, some people would laugh about it. Some people like, no, I knew it was real. What are you gonna do? That's how it gets treated because of the way the setup that we grew up in, right? So what are you gonna do? You can't blame them. But traumatic. Yeah, it was traumatic at the time, and it scared me for a couple of years. But it doesn't bother me now. I don't care. It doesn't, not at all. I'm not fazed by it at all at this point. Now, if it happened again, of course I would. If I wake up in the middle of the night and there's something there like that again, right? Even though it's all years later, right? Decades and decades later, right? Yeah, I'd be freaked out. Of course I would be. But as far as I know, that has not happened. But then again, maybe it has happened. I just don't realize it. I don't know. And he goes on to say, thank you for sharing that with everyone. The fact that you survived the experience and appear to be thriving could be encouraging to others who have been through a similar event. Yeah, I know. So here's the way, we all have issues, things that happen in life. There's all kinds of bad stuff, but you have to pick yourself up and get over it, right? You got to move on. That's the this stuff doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm not concerned about that. And there's lots of other things. There's tragedies that happen throughout my life. You can't let these things hang on you and drag you down. You just got to, don't worry about it. What are you going to do? Just enjoy your life today, think about tomorrow and the future, but don't let things that were bad in the past or scary or anything drag you down. That's my message to people out there who encounter these things and were terrified. There's other people out there who encountered them and they have a good time. So it's a two-way. It seems like there's different viewpoints on it. So but people out there who were terrified by it, it sucks. What are you going to do? It sucks. But you get over it. You get up and you move on. You don't let it bug you. That's how you have to look at things. It's with everything in life. You have to look at it like that. You just can't let terrible things just. It's hard sometimes, and when things happen, it seems like you're never going to get over it. But you just got to work through it somehow, and you'll eventually feel better over time. Terrence Wills thanks me for all the hard work and pushing the truth. Yes, thank you for that comment. Yes, and here's also there was somebody mentioned in the previous show I was talking about. There was a comment I had received from someone who was concerned that the government's going to scrub that video away. They're not going to be able to do that. There's too many people that have it downloaded to their computer. And here is another one. Rockbot BSTR Music says, I got a copy of the video on my computer and still go back and watch it all the time. If you use motion sensing, it will put little squares around leaves barely moving, but when the cloaked being comes into view, it picks nothing up inside the shadow. Yes, it does not. Actually, I did a video. I'm gonna. It's hard, when I did that video with the AI with the little gray alien, that thing was solid, so that's why I picked it up. But the creature that shows up behind the fence, it's transparent, so it's also picking up the leaves behind the trees. You can see like a dark shape there, but that's it. So the AI doesn't really work there on that one. It doesn't pick it up because it can't see it, because it's seeing the tree leaves behind it because it's transparent. 66% of the pixels were deleted for some reason. When Scott Roeder and his team went on there and they did that analysis, they determined that there was the pixels were deleted somehow, and that's why. So because of that, you could see it barely. You could see it though, but that's what the family said they saw. You could make out the face and the head and the shape of it, but you could see through it too, and the computer sees through it. Any sort of program on your computer, like that AI animation program that I was using, that saw through it, so it doesn't really pick it up. It can't do it. But it's there. Heizer Sose says, let's not forget Roeder's teammate showing the foot shadow at the bottom of the fence correlating with the shadow above the fence. Yes, that was Luis Castillo. He showed that the shadow and the head were together. It was although a lot of people, debunkers out there and deniers, Ben Hansen, says it's a shadow from the people. A lot of people think that. I thought that when I first was looking at it, but then when you look at it over and over again, you realize, wait a minute, this thing is moving with the head. It's moving with the head, and there was, that wasn't the shadow. And there was also another debunker who I was talking about here. I'd like to hear what he has to say now. Actually, I can't remember his name. Right? He didn't really have a real name. Never told his real name. Some guy from the UK. He was talking about. I wonder what he says now. Now we're talking about that little gray alien. I'd like to see what he has to say now. But no, I think that was all connected. I think it was all one piece moving in concert with itself. I mean, that's what it was, and that's why you see that shadow. Castillo, the computer program that they used to make that determination showed that, and I think that was all the same. But what does it matter? You know what? It doesn't even matter, because you see the face. You see it. And plus now we also have the other evidence to go along with it, the little gray in the back. Elliot Orion again says, if they crashed in your backyard, Jim, would you invite them inside to hide? Well, I don't know about that. I don't know what I would do. What would you do? What would you do if something crashed in your... I'm going to put that as the next Spotify, I'll come up with a poll on Spotify about what would you do if alien craft crashed in your backyard. What would you do if there was a couple aliens there? Would you invite them in and hide them from the government? I know what I would do. I'd probably try to start live streaming it. To say, to help end it. It should be ended already, but maybe to help further end it. Mr. Jumps or MJ Jumps says, you're a bully when it comes to the pro-alien perspective, and I love it. Well, I hate, honestly, I gotta say this. I don't like bullies. I don't want to come off as a bully. I'm just trying to talk back against it's been, what bothers me about the whole thing is that I always dislike the way the sanctimonious group on the other side, the way they've been talking all these years, the way they put people down who have experiences, the way people get made fun of, right? So that drives me nuts. To me, they are the bullies. They've been bullying the UFO community for decades, right? So now I just think we need to take it the other way and say, look, you're stupid. You're the one who's a dope for not accepting this. You're the one holding us back. Right? And now they really are. They're not accepting this. So, it drives you crazy that they're all these years they've been, bullying people. That's what it is. I mean, it's a form of bullying, right? I mean, look what Whitley Strieber was talking about when I was in the previous show. He says that, he got made fun of. His life was turned upside down. People weren't buying his books. Like, basically, he became a laughing stock. He actually said he became a laughing stock because he told people the truth about what happened to him. And here, now we actually have this new evidence that we're presenting that shows, he was telling the truth. That alien looks like the same kind of thing that he was talking about. So, these people need to be told, hey, you're wrong. You need to say it in a stronger voice than just sitting back and, yes, we have this evidence, and we're going to present it at the next meeting. And no, 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 because they're not going to act that way. No, you got to be tough with these people. On the other side, right? They're gonna be going extinct soon here, right? They're like dinosaurs. They're in the future, right? In the history books, they're gonna look like complete, absolute, stupid morons. That's what they're gonna look like. People are gonna look back at this time, and they're gonna look at the people that were like the debunkers, right? And they're gonna look at them and they're gonna think, wow, these people are idiots. These people were dopes. What was wrong with them? How stupid? How closed-minded? Here was another one. This was from the new Miles Scopeland. He says, don't let it get to you. They've dragged their heels for decades with layers of gaslighting, obfuscation, and denial. So take a step back, because you'll end up burning yourself out while someone else comes along taking the glory like an attention whore. Makes me cringe hearing some of these academics and skeptics. My advice is to stick to historical cases from the collection of books you've got, and I wish I had, because there's generations of researchers and encounters that all have similarities or patterns waiting to resurface. The Las Vegas incident will one day receive the attention it deserves. And I'm not just on about News Nation updates / validation from the big egos with recognizable names. Your time will come because the video evidence is on the record for the world to see. Yeah, I'm not even worried about that. I don't even care. I don't care. I mean, I actually wanted that to happen. I actually wanted the big names to step up. I wanted them to take this over, that start talking about this on TV. That's who should be talking about it. They're the ones that should be talking about it. You know, that's what I thought would happen when he did that first show, that first day, Vindication Day, right? I had all those faces, I had that music and everything. I wanted to make a big deal out of it. I felt so happy for all those people for all these years. They were vindicated that day. But guess what? Look at how it went down. What are you gonna do? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off for there. I want to say thank you to everybody that gives comments to me like this. I'm really excited about that. You know, my channel is growing. It's been growing very slowly over the last few years since I started this. Now about 3 years, and I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate the people commenting on here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I don't usually talk about that kind of stuff. The woman says I need to start doing that more often, and she's the boss. So, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share the videos that I've been making. Get the word out there. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Yeah, the evidence is already there. I'm not worried about it. I don't care who wants to take. Actually, Scott Roeder should be the one he's the one who showed scientifically that the stuff was real. That's the one who should be getting the credit for this. He does. I give him all the credit in the world. And this has been a grassroots effort. There's a whole bunch of other people that have been talking about this too, all over the internet. All different kinds of content creators have been talking about this. There's a lot more people out there. They all deserve credit for keeping this story up there, keeping it alive, keep pushing it. Right? Keep talking about it, because, again, this story ends the debate. And what I was talking about, the main topic of today's episode was the fact that, the simplest explanation is the best explanation, Occam's razor. And as, you looked at all, I laid out several cases, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is that they all involved non-human intelligence / extraterrestrial beings encounters. That's what we were talking about. That's why it was the simplest explanation. The Vegas stuff actually reinforces it. It's like steel reinforcement for everything else. That's what it is. So we're already there. It's just now it's time for the rest of the world to start getting caught up with it. It's not going to happen, I don't think, this year. And, there's this big time presidential election going on right now. That needs to get resolved. And then I'm sure we'll pick up the pieces once that's over with, and we'll see what happens. But I think we're going to get there. The government knew this was coming. The secret control group, they know this is coming. They have contingency plans based on this. And one more thing I want to say is, like, I do plan on doing an update on the OPNAC situation. I've been talking about that, and the Special Operations Manual, the information from Jon Stewart recently, where he determined, I believe he's right, that the one location where they're taking live alien creatures that were recovered from crashes. There was an abbreviation in that Special Operations Manual that was leaked back in 1994 that says BBS, and one of his followers said that he thinks that stands for Bermuda Biological Station. I think that is right, and I've been receiving some more information on that. I'm going to talk about that on the next show, along with some other things. So anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.